The sixth sense and above, we have 32 senses. 5 senses is mentality. Consciousness is a mental event, a mental process, an illusion, imagination. It's the mind. It's a high IQ. Your mind's a mathematical to work things out with. An IQ is based on 98% memory. It's a memory box. It's 5 senses. Raising your IQ and your grammar and your selections with atheism, artificial intelligence, and evolution mutation, when you select with this kind of grammar the most to make a name for yourself, like a Hollywood character, an American dreamer sitting on a screen as an actor, or a scientist, a professor, or anybody in the world for that matter, the world can only use 7 to 15% of the brain. Some of us can use 100%. And there's a really big difference between 100% and 15%. And that's the obvious. That's the obvious that people cannot fathom. The whole world, in 98.7% of the population, hasn't got an aura during the daytime, only 3.5 hours at night, that can prepare with genetic repair kit. They can only repair at nighttime for 3.5 hours. 1.3% can repair 24 hours a day. They live in spirituality and not in mentality. They live in their 27 biofields out of their 32 senses and don't live in their mind with 5 sense mentality. 98.7% of the world today lives in their mind 95 to 99% of the time, in their mind, in their consciousness, which is a mental event, a mental process, an illusion, imagination, set up by the Rockefellers into a conscious singularity. Mental disorders and defects are going through the roof in turbocharged rates worldwide with what they call delusional parasitosis, smaller golems, as a parasite reported worldwide. Parasites makes your voltage reliability going anti-clockwise. Now, as Eckhart Tolle says, we have a hostile entity in our mind. Our consciousness is unaware of the outside influence that controls our reality, as disclosed by UAP disclosure in March last year. Now, Harari says we're going to change the natural cellular life and replace it with intelligent design with AI and alien intelligence and outside influence on our reality supported on many different levels. People have voices inside their mind, and it's been declared by 45,000 teachers and 16,000 top scholars that we listen to the wrong voice in the mind, causing mental disorder and defects going through the roof and a communication breakdown. We listen to the wrong voices in our mind in 98.7% of the human population. That's why their body starts going corruption delusion during the daytime, and they die prematurely from stress-related diseases and not from natural ages or natural cause. They die from psychosis and from stress-related diseases, getting younger all the time, declared by FDA and the top scholars of the world. Not getting older, getting younger, declared worldwide, from generation to generation. As they normalize what was immoral yesterday non-stop and keep twisting the fabric to suit themselves in their own comfort zone in front of a screen all day with radio waves and materialistic things and consuming all the wrong products and making that many unnatural selections, and the human conditioning is exploding on 100,000 different side effects with egotism, self-centered behavior, selfishness, self-envy, self-pride, with competitive people competing, non-stop competing with one another, and judgmental competitive behavior. And that's the mind trap that people are living in their mind. And they're getting angry, they're becoming dysfunctional, right? More gay society, more child sex offenders, more mental disorders, more gene defects, and everything is escalating out of control as they're stripped from their sixth sense for the 6th time in the 6th mass extinction. And that's their spirituality, right? They're living in their mentality. This is the greatest psychological warfare in human history and spiritual warfare. And I can guarantee you, people sitting on a screen all day is living in a 5 sense world with mentality. And that's their reality. They think they're self-proclaimed prophets when they can't even use their biofields with a codependent independent power in their biology and their DNA. DNA is declared the book of life. And to wake up from amnesia and the reincarnation trap is a hell of an affliction point. When you're designed on reverse psychology from generation to generation, and you do not know what you're doing, you can only 7 to 10% of your brain, and the highest IQ people in the world with 125 plus IQ is brain deformity and can only use 15% of their brain. But when a person can use 100% and he's got no mental disorders and no DNA defects and he's got a genetic repair kit to repair 24 hours a day, it's been declared that people like this can do every single thing that Christ can in that bloodline, in that DNA, by following the correct footsteps and making natural selection and a natural order in life. And we're going through a transformation right now worldwide with a natural selection. And natural selection with their natural gain of manuscripts, right, which is our sixth sense, to think outside the mind, to think instinctively, and not to think psychologically or mentally, or be trapped in a personality with grammar that only makes you good at what you do, but in fact not intelligent, declared worldwide. Okay, you don't have feelings because your feelings has collapsed by 95 to 99%. You only come to your own conclusion with reasoning, and reasoning is an agent of affairs because it's 5 senses living in your mind, an illusion of imagination, with an imagination run more with scientific theories and aren't facts, with evolution mutation. And most people mutate non-stop, declared by FDA. Mutate in the 23rd chromosome, and the 24th chromosome, as you can see in study research, is now in dormancy in 98.7% of the population because they didn't follow the right family tree with the right DNA, with a genetic memory and a genetic process with genetic repair kit, with 2 molecules of metallic to preserve DNA, where their auras clockwise in their aura, in their biology, and their body cells do not go in corruption, collusion. And they don't suffer mental disorders and defects, and they live to be 450 years old, okay, and 257 with a birth certificate, right? We followed the wrong footsteps of Noah and the naked drunks, Nimrod the milestone, right, with cognitive behavior. They designed us into a nation with confusion, frustration, with delusion and paranoia, and overset language that can't be overset with mental abilities. The consciousness cannot overset different languages. With confusion and frustration, with religious political cults that can't even see on the same page from country to country. They cannot resonate with mentality when they live in their mind with different grammar that has different meanings. They don't have the same understanding, no matter what they think. A Danish person cannot overset to English correctly, and they can never understand the same way. They're different types of people. An Aboriginal, the original, is far more advanced with an aura that's 100 times more powerful than a Westerner. They have the most authentic DNA in the world, and they have the most powerful fruit. They grow 10 times more fruit with 10 times more nutritious value because they have an aura and that kind of relationship that replenishes nature. Our fauna is collapsing between 38 and 90% in our fauna worldwide because we live in that kind of mentality that sends animals around circles all over the earth and birds falling in the sky with vertigo, and it's happening to us with buying syndromes in peer reports worldwide from every hospital. We're losing our magnetic fields. We're going into 6 mass extinction, stripping the 6 sense for the 6th time with voices in our mind that are ultimately designed from indistinction. That's only a personality. They'll tell you whatever you believe in. They'll put you in your comfort zone with Christ's consciousness and sound heavenly, but they're only a personality that we design into and mentally institutionalize. With the voice of the minds, when we think critically, they tell us to do it and don't do it, and give a price reason why we should and why we shouldn't, but we do what we're told. At the end of the day, we do what we're told. And everybody does. They do what they're told. They just got to pressure up against the wall. If they need money, they'll do what they're told. Right? 98.7% of the population will do what they're told. Recorded with DNA studies with a voice of mind that tells them to do that. Okay? Anti-clockwise. Artificial intelligence. It's all in the mind. It's a placebo effect anti-clockwise. That's spreading like a virus and affecting all of us. In all our biology and our DNA. We have 600 to 6,000 defective genes in every single Westerner. Today, 77% of all Westerners' children are born with chronic diseases because we were declared a species of denial in 2003 when we were told in 99 that we're losing our sixth sense and our magnetic pulse and our EMP pulses. And when we were told that in 99 that we are crazy and our parents are crazy, we live in denial about it. So we call speech denial in 2000 because we live in denial and we live on screens all day with a 5 sense world, with artificial intelligence, and think we know better than everyone with their opinions, possessed by an outside influence that tells us to do that. Literally. And most people don't care, as they haven't got a care factor and can't feel the truth anymore. They come to their own conclusion with reasoning, by design. They cannot think instinctively. They told you that in the Matrix documentary in 1999. Those who think instinctively tune our program. And still, 26 years later, you have all this artificial people all over the world, right, who are actors all over the world and have no idea what they're doing at all. They're trapped in a 5 sense world with radio waves and cognitive programs on a screen all day. They're the most artificial human beings in the world. They're not humble. They're not spirituality. They're actors, Hollywood characters and American dreamers, and the whole world's become an actor because they can't master their own mind and use 100% of their brain. They can only use up to 15% of their brain. They can't use their 27 biofields out of 32 senses: dimensional thinking, mental telepathy, ESP, remote view and telekinesis, levitation, spoon bending, clock winding, folding space and time with deja vu, to predict the future and prevent what's going to happen. They can't think clockwise. They can only think anti-clockwise. And all the grammar they depend on, nothing in this world's going to justify what they believe in, including their religious, political behavior or any New Age cult. Because they're in the wrong grammar, with the wrong barcode that they select unnaturally with unnatural selection, not natural selection. Waking up from amnesia and the reincarnation trap to use your genetic process with a genetic memory is one hell of a process that you don't understand. And the most misunderstood project, right, in the world, misunderstood by 99.9% of the population, because they're artificial. They're post-transhumans since 1960, declared in post-human states in 1999, and live in denial in their mind without a care factor. They got no real relationships in real life. You know, go home with people that are sitting here every day and look at their real life. Understand what spirituality is. It's not mentality. It's not coming to your conclusion with reasoning and conquer, debate, and divide to be selfish and think you know better than everyone else, as if you're some kind of self-proclaimed nutcase, and think you're an expert when you're not. You can't use your biology. You can't use your DNA. You can't use your genetic process, which means your science and your book-smart education and every human being on earth is anti-clockwise and live in denial. Every one of them in denial. They're not in spirituality, they're in mentality. Trapped in a personality with amnesia and don't know what they're doing. But they think they do, but they don't. They think they do, but they don't. Literally. DNA is the book of life. DNA is where the truth is. Not in their mind. Not in their cognitive behavior. And their judgmental competitive behavior. Because they live in their own truth. Manifest their own truth. And only care about themselves. With the biggest communication breakdown and denial factor in global history. In a delusional state. But they haven't got a care factor in real life. They haven't got any soulmate relationships. They haven't got independent, codependent power. And without the codependent power, they're nothing. They don't know what they're doing. They can't master their own mind from the outside in because they're trapped inside. Inside out. They're inverted into themselves. Self-centered. Self-envy, self-pride. Right? 600 to 6,000 defective genes. They're deformed and live in denial, in deformity. Gay society's deformity. Child sex offenders deformity. Taking drugs and can't cope is deformity. Mental disorders is deformity. Gene defects is deformity. Mental species living in their consciousness, in their mind, is a deformity. Atheism is anti-clockwise, a deformity, declared worldwide. They don't have faith in their own biological genes to use their own natural selection in their own DNA. But every species in the world has a genetic memory and a genetic process that they reject themselves by not having any faith in their own biological genes to use their own natural selection from their natural organic molecules in the 24th chromosome in dormancy, as they reject it and their genetic memory themselves. They deliberately reject it themselves without realizing it and give consent to an outside influence to control their mind. That's why they can't control their brain, because they can't control their mind. When they're not in charge and the mastermind of their own mind, they can't use 100% of their brain. So they've given consent to suffer mental disorders, gene defects, and die prematurely from stress-related diseases and keep coming back in the reincarnation trap. And most of them today, right now, is beyond the point of return. We can no longer change mankind from the way he thinks and the way he judges. Only a very few people will go back in their primordial state, in their celestial primordial state, which is their spirituality, their sixth sense. As we go into sixth mass extinction, stripping the sixth sense for the sixth time, and it's already sending animals around circles all over the earth, birds falling out of the sky, and vertigo, and concussion, right? And people getting dizzy spells, pins and needles, can't sleep right, okay? Vertigo, okay? Fatigue, and they're losing their biological system and their biofields, their biosenses. 27 senses is the Holy Spirit and the divine light in your fields with your quantum mechanic of a relationship with righteousness. Nothing else works. Nothing else. If you don't cross over back in your primordial state, back in your spiritual state, your celestial primordial state, then you will not be saved. It's a known fact. Scholars know this. Top scholars in the world know. No matter what you think and what you believe in, you're living in your mind and a personality with mentality, and you cannot feel the truth, and it's 10 times more powerful than your reality. It's 10 times more powerful than anything you've ever felt in your life. You're most high. You're high as a kite. You're free. You're liberated from your mental mind that oppresses you and traps you so deep into yourself that you don't even know. With amnesia, you don't know. When you break free from amnesia and the reincarnation trap, it's one hell of an experience. And we break you free from amnesia in a 40-day test and a 3.5-year transformation that alters in your DNA, a genetic process with genetic memory that comes to you, that comes back in your primordial state through a natural selection, a natural order, with a divine intervention, with a powerful divine intervention for a 40-day fasting and the most powerful confirmation you'll ever receive in your life. And you'll feel the truth like you never have before in your life. Nothing in this world will give you a confirmation like this will. Nothing else in the world can. Believe me. Unless you go through this 40-day fast that I teach you every day with the most powerful confirmation and the most powerful divine intervention, until then, you'll never know what you're missing out on. Until you do this yourself and understand the mind has no idea. The mind doesn't know what you're doing. That's why you have to wake up from amnesia and the reincarnation trap like this. A 40-day fast, crossing over in a time where time since all over serves, where you go through the light in the tunnel and you see it yourself. The most powerful experience and the most powerful divine intervention you'll ever have in your life. I died at 2 years old, clinically dead. I died at 18 years old, clinically dead, walked around like a zombie for a week. I had a 140-kilometer accident at 18 years old, right? 18 years old. Hit a car, nearly cut it in half. The bike was destroyed. I couldn't move 85% of my body. Every limb, every bone, every muscle was torn. My father had to carry me to the toilet every day. I couldn't move a limb. I wasn't hurt so bad, but I was thrown over 100 meters in the midair and tumbled like tumbleweed. And every joint and muscle was black and blue. I couldn't move for nearly 2 weeks. My dad had to carry me to the toilet. And trust me, that put me in a hell of an infliction point. I flatlined with a drug overdose at 18, walked around like a zombie for a week. And boy, that was a wake-up call. When you cross over and you die and you come back, it's one hell of an infliction point. At 21 years old, 2 months before I was 21, I got hit by a drunk driver at over 100 miles an hour in one of the most horrific accidents you've ever seen in your life. The other 2 people in the other car was mangled and got bad injuries for the rest of their life in wheelchairs. They were mutilated, lucky to live. I walked out and sat in my bedroom for 3.5 weeks and stared into the wall. I was a putrid junkie. Went from 71 kilos down to 51 kilos. Lost that much weight, it was ridiculous. Sorry, 74 kilos to 51. Had 1 foot in the grave. I knew I was dying. My body organs were shutting down. I went to the doctor, couldn't get any help. I was trapped with a bad drug overdose when I flatlined and tried to get off the drugs for 2 years and couldn't get off the drugs. Half dead. I knew I was dying. Then I had this horrific car accident and I was never home. I was a junkie, never home. Right? I was embarrassed to be home. I went home and sat in my bedroom for 3.5 weeks and stared into space in shock and went through a massive transformation in that moment. I thought, man, I've got to stop these drugs. And I stopped that drug, dead, on the spot, and never, ever, ever took drugs again. I went for a lot of things in my life, and I made 1,000 videos about this. I wrote a book that I'm possible living and predicted living perfect. I have deja vu, remote viewing, and many abilities, but I know things beyond people's mindset. And I need you to know this. I died in 2012. I went through a transformation. When I did, I had 7 comas in hospital 7 times. Okay? 7 times. I was stabbed 27 times. I was shot in the chest, all separate. I bled to death nearly twice. I went through a lot of things in my life. A lot of things. A lot of near-death experience and been clinically dead 3 times. I learned a lot of things about life after life and going across and coming back. I went through massive teachings myself. I created the most powerful true system in the world that crosses you over. I made a lot of videos about this. The most powerful enlightenment drug in the world. The most powerful love drug. The most powerful enlightenment drug. I'm the biggest mastermind in the underground world and the biggest documents and DNA studies done. I'm one of a kind in every study, with godlike power, with divine intervention to command nature. It's a known fact, right? But I've experienced things beyond what most people have. I can do everything Christ can, every document to back it up. So I can teach people as well, right? With the same genetic process, with the same genetic memory, coded in your own DNA. I know it the best because I've taught people like this since the 90s. In the Star Chamber Inquiry, 105 people arrested with godlike power and superhuman abilities that people don't have. In the documents, in the Mastermind report, in the Gatekeeper report. And that's why I need you to pay attention. I woke up from amnesia. No matter what I went through, no matter what I've done in my life, I still had one big, massive problem. In 2012, when I died clinically, there was one thing I was going through, a massive transformation and a genetic memory and a genetic process. 3.5 years later, I'm sitting down with 2 top bowlers and 2 top scientists and 2 of the biggest people in the biggest think tank in the world. And they're telling me for 34 years of my DNA, I'm altering my genetic process and genetic memory like no one else on earth. I'm one of a kind with my genetic memory and genetic repair kit, repairing things. I died in 2012, paralyzed my neck down, and they proved I was paralyzed and got up and walked out myself with one of the most powerful confirmations on earth. And you're told this, that you can do everything Christ can and more, and you're the only one of a kind on the biggest study ever done. And there's 130 people like you, but you're number one with more powerful documents and more divine intervention to bring someone back to life with peer reports and CCTV in 1992. And that person raised the most powerful opponent in 2003, the one and only. And she says, I brought her back to life with divine power. I had the power to give her life back. She went to the light in the tunnel and I sent her back. That's what she said. And it's not my fault. I woke up from amnesia and the reincarnation trap and went for a massive transformation myself, right? And went back into natural selection. And through the natural selection, I started to see the picture that tells me 1,000 words. I started to see deja vu into the future and into the past. And I started to open up like a can of worms and see things I never ever saw before in my life and understand things I never understood before in my life. And that was the most powerful confirmation that I ever got, that we have amnesia. Now, I made a lot of videos about my brother's bus accident, the Kempsey bus accident that stopped Australia. 36 people died. And one of the biggest miracles in the front page paper by Dr. Wright and Queensland Mental Health. When my brother flatlined after a 3.5-week coma, for 10 days he said goodbye to 19 people that died in his bus. And then Kathy, his wife who died, came and said to him on the 27th of January, 1990, right? The accident was the 22nd December, right? 1989. The Kempsey bus accident that stopped Australia. And this is what's read in the article in the paper by Dr. Wright. Kathy said, she said to my brother, when Dr. Wright was there and the psychiatrist who gave him a clean mental health bill and said he was normal, they said it's a miracle because my brother couldn't remember the accident. But he said goodbye to 19 people that died on this bus and every name confirmed. Of the first person that died on that bus, every name confirmed. Every person you could goodbye to was every person that died on that bus except for the driver responsible for the accident. And Kathy said she was the only one that made it and the others were lost, getting one more final chance. On the 27th of January 1990, they were getting one more final chance. They have amnesia. They didn't know what they were doing, trapped in the reincarnation trap. They didn't go to heaven or hell. They were getting one more final chance. My brother didn't talk to me for 27 years, and exactly 27 years later to the day of my grandson's birthday, on the 27th of January 2017, 27 years later to the day, my brother tells me when he flatlined, and he was in a coma, he flatlined for a moment and came out of the coma. He told me, and he hadn't spoken to me barely for 27 years. We lost the relationship. We were really close. So I suffered for 27 years of my life where I lost the relationship with my brother. And then he tells me, in a powerful divine intervention, a powerful moment, he tells me when he flatlined, he went to that dimension that was perfect, but so beautiful, you don't want to come back. And that's what people were saying. They always say the same thing. I've been there myself. I know this inflection point, and people do all they will. You go across when you die into this beautiful dimension, and you're connected to all things in life, sand, soil, nature, and every single thing. You're connected with love, unconditional love, and you feel so powerful. It's like you have a soulmate relationships, a codependent, in tune, and integrated relationship with everything. And you feel so powerful in the highest high, like the ecstasy feeling. You feel love frequency in the highest possible feels with your EMP pulse and a codependent relationship, and you feel the love so powerful. You've never felt love like it in your life, with a massive clarification, more clear than anything else. And my brother went into that dimension and he said he was sent back to heaven because of me. He was sent back to heaven because of me, for the same reason the other 18 was sent back, because I lost and getting one more final opportunity. And he was getting one more final opportunity. And he didn't talk to me for 27 years because he blamed me, because I was the one who sent him back. Imagine how that makes you feel when you're told that 27 years later. And your wife, when she flatlines in 92 and you bring her back to life 3 times with the most powerful peer reports and CCTV, she says exactly the same thing. In the poem, the most powerful poem in 2000, the one and only. And they interviewed both. And that's the answer they got. And they're not the only 2, but they're fully recorded. And that's astonishing when you really think about it. I know the resurrection of humanity and the crossover. And if you don't cross over back in the primal state, you're not in the Christ image. I am. We're the most powerful confirmation on earth in DNA studies done. DNA is clear the book of life. And believe me, I have the most powerful divine dimension and the most authentic DNA in the world that can bring you through this. And that's what you need to focus on, not what your mind tells you. It'll deceive you and become my own worst enemy and yours at the same time. And I'll show you. Through a 40-day fast, I'll show you how much of an enemy it really is in your mind, your own personality, how you're possessed by your own mentality without even realizing it. And I'll show you, and you'll feel it, and you'll know. You'll know. With the most powerful confirmation you could ever begin to imagine. Where you feel love like ecstasy, high as a kite, when you do When Not Breathing, the Holy Breath of Life, and read the book Freedom, or listen to it on audio, and go for a 40-day fast, and go through this. The Holy Grail of Life is the book Freedom, held by 16,000 top scholars in the world. The Holy Grail of Life, DNA, the book of life. To go through this, and every rabbit hole to stick your head through the light in the tunnel, as Plato describes in 15 books, he's the greatest philosopher of all time. He knew. So did Einstein and Hawkins, but they knew they were listening to the wrong voice of mine. And that's what's declared all over the world today. By 45,000 and 16,000 top scholars, we listen to the wrong voice of mine. And 98.7% of the population continues to listen to the wrong voice of mine in denial. A species in denial beyond the point of return in majority. And they will never go back in the primal state, and they'll never cross over. And if they don't cross over, they'll never know. The great resurrection of humanity is crossing back over in their primordial state to go to a new time where times is still and life preserves in their sixth sense. And remember, you're going in a sixth mass extinction strip in the sixth sense for the sixth time. And that's the voices inside your mind with mental disorders and defects that you give consent to live in a comfort zone with stress, fear, anxiety, confusion, frustration, delusion, and paranoia. And it's not going to work. Not this time. Not this time. This time, if you don't cross over, you're going to pay the consequences beyond your mind. And I don't want you to fail because you're controlled by Baal with boldness, reliability, anti-clockwise in your DNA and your aura. And your aura is your sixth sense. It's your spirituality, not your mentality. You're living in mentality. The whole world's living in their mind and their personality with amnesia, in their mentality, with artificial intelligence and artificial unnatural selection. And if they don't get it, they never will. The movie Limitless shows you the dark cool manner to use 100% of your brain how to cross over. And we show you with When Not Breathing, the Holy Breath of Life, and the book Freedom by Jimmy Goose, and crossing over for a 40-day test, a 40-day fast, where you don't select, you stop the unnatural selection, and you cross over and make a natural selection, a natural order in your body, and you have a profound divine intervention, a most profound confirmation you'll ever feel in your life as you're in your most high with When Not Breathing, the Holy Breath of Life, where you oxidize your blood with a meth effect, DMT, opiates, and MDMA in an ecstasy feeling. And that's how high you get when you push this adrenaline to the maximum capacity and push those chemical factories inside your own DNA with a sacred secretion into the third eye, into the sixth sense. The third eye, we can see the picture of the charge that was going to lie to you. Dimensional thinking, mental telepathy, ESP, remote and telekinesis, levitation, spoon and clock mining, folding space and time with deja vu. We can see into the future and prevent what's going to happen. And here is where I show you the future and take you through the light and tunnel to stick your head out the cave so you can see it yourself. With the most powerful confirmation in deja vu, we can see the future and how perfect it is and how beautiful it is with a clarification. And then you go through a transformation for 3.5 years with When Not Breathing to recreate the sacred secretion to get high as a kite. And you transfer the high and those radio waves as an ecstasy feeling back into your civilization and create heaven and earth You do it automatically. And things come to you out of the blue with your genetic memory and a genetic process in your DNA. And DNA is a book of life. And you start to turn your aura clockwise. And then it does it by itself. Believe it or not. How would you know? You don't know. And nothing in your mind, and nothing you feel, and nothing in this world can teach you. You have to do something else you've never done before in your life. You have to do something you've never done. It's your biospheres, it's your biological system. Your mind's the problem. It's your worst enemy. Plays 6 games in you. You're trapped in a cave. You're trapped in a cave in such a way you become your own prison, your own warden at the same time. And it controls you. You're trapped in your mind, in a mentality, in a personality. And you have to break free into your spirituality, into your primordial being, into your primordial state. And believe me, it's one hell of an experience, and it's a bit chilling, but it's liberation. It's the greatest time to be alive when you adapt and start to go through a transformation where things come from out of the blue, with a picture that tells 1,000 words are going to lie to you. And trust me, the natural selection takes place in your DNA, and you feel it in your biology, right? You must meditate. You must use When I Breathe In program. You must go through the adverse effects with the Holy Breath of Life to reinstate the natural secretion, the natural selection. Without that, you can't conduct. And without the conductor, you haven't got a relationship. You have to raise the bar to the most positive fields in your 27 biofields through When I'm Breathing, and push the oxygen to the maximum level, to highest high you've ever had in your life. And you keep pressing it and pushing it harder and harder until you balance yourself and you create the same feeling permanently, and go into a transformation where you learn how to create that powerful feeling and create heaven and earth in the most positive fields and spread it like a virus. And that creates 10 times more fruit, 10 times more nutritious value when you bear the right fruit and you're not inverted, because you're inverted into yourself. And until you wake up, you will never know. You're like a walking zombie and a dead corpse. You don't even know. You're like a walking zombie and a dead corpse until you cross over and feel the truth. And believe me, it's 10 times more powerful love than you've ever felt in your life, with the most powerful confirmation on earth. Waking up from amnesia and the reincarnation trap is the hardest experience and the most misunderstood subject in the world. People are trapped in their mind in a comfort zone. And everybody's in a comfort zone somewhere in that tunnel, but they've never crossed over. But you must cross over. You must go through the resurrection and go through the rebirth, the reboot, the great reset in your biological genes with your natural organic motor skills. When not breathing resets your biological genes and resets your natural organic motor skills. When not breathing resets your biological genes, right, in your capacity, in your mental state. You've got to listen to what I'm saying to you. When not breathing, reset your biological system back in your natural state with natural selection and natural order in life. You've got to go through this through natural selection, because if you keep using your mind, you're making a non-natural selection to prevent you from understanding what this is all about. The mind doesn't know what you're doing. It's outside the mind, way over and above and beyond the mind. And then you control your vision from the outside in, the crossover, instead of the inside out and trapped in the mind and personality with mentality. Because believe me, you do not know what you do until you cross over.